إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا.
If you have an idea for a show and want to get involved, email info@salamradio.co.uk.
Assalamu alaikum. This is your very own Dr Shabina Asad Qayyum for the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. And it's been a while, hasn't it, since I last came onto the show, for obvious reasons, explainable, but outside the sphere of broadcasting. I wear a few hats, and some of them are, well, I think I'll be allowed to say some of them are a little bit political. So I wasn't able to do my show, but obviously before that we've had Ramadan and we've had Eid, and it's just been go. So it's been incredibly busy last 2.5 months, but it's all the better for coming back and seeing all of you one more time on the Body, Health and Mind Show. And as usual, I'm going to give you the drill. So I'm Dr Shabina Asad Qayyum. I'm a GP at a local practice in the heart of the city and absolutely love doing what I do. So it's great to be here. I'm always finding ways of how to sort of really engage with all of you and bring up contemporary topics. So I do that more or less. I know that I'm not more regular, but I do wish to be a little bit more regular now on the show. So hopefully, inshallah, I'd like you to join me in this. It's an interactive show. It's wonderful to get, you know, your opinions on how this needs to be in the way of topics. I'd love you to bring your topics to me, to talk to me about things that you'd like to speak about, whether it's to do with anything medical, clinical, emotional well-being. Hit me up with what your topics are, and then hopefully I can talk to you about it on a show. I'd really like to thank all the volunteers and the presenters that have brought new shows to this area and to this arena. They put in an awful lot of good work. We've just had Iram show, who she presents every single week about influential women within our city and region, and kudos to her for that. We've got a variety of shows throughout the week. I'd like to thank all the management of Salam Radio for bearing with us as presenters as well and giving us these opportunities, because it's great. It's great to be back here with you talking about areas that we specialize in. So without further ado, I wanted to talk to you about a special topic this week. And it's something that I see quite a lot of, and everybody goes through this, I think, at some point in their life. But before we do that, let me give you a default on what it is. So if you want to speak to me, do call. I don't get that many callers nowadays, but I'd love you to be able to join in the conversation on 01733 602 133, or you can text us on 07411 191062. And you can comment, as usual, on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. So I look forward to you speaking to me or asking just simple questions. And I was having a think about what I should talk about this week. And honestly, I think that it's one of those things that presents very commonly to me. However, I've never really thought about talking about this topic before, and it is about difficulty sleeping or sleep disturbances, sleep problems, insomnia. Now, how many of you have suffered from insomnia or a lack of sleep? I think every single person, and actually statistics show that most people will at some point in their life suffer from some type of a sleep disorder. And it's true. It's true. They do suffer from some type of a sleep disorder. And I've got a lovely little boy who is put his thumbs up, and they've joined us in the studio. I'm going to give them a shout out on the sort of radio now. One's called Ibrahim Musa. And you know, the little one that put his thumbs up to me, I've forgotten what his name is. So I hope somebody can shout his name out to me, or at least text it to me so I can give him. Are you going to tell me what your name is? Ibrahim. So it's Ibrahim, little Ibrahim. And you know, he is alongside Asim, who is our studio manager for today. And he's such a whiz at all of the controls. He's such a wonderful little boy. He's been chatting with me outside. He's clever. He's articulate. He's a happy little chappy. So you know what, Ibrahim, you get my shout out today for today's show, because you're going to be Salam Radio's Body Health and Mind Show Superstar of the Week. So there you go. He's made life a lot more easy for me. And there he is behind the screen, and he's giving me these smiles. He's a gorgeous little boy. So yeah, hats off to him. So Ibrahim this week is my favourite little boy. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about insomnia. So I bet that's woken you all up, hasn't it? Which is great. So let's talk a little bit about insomnia or poor sleep. It is so common. Did you know that as many as 1 in 3 people will suffer from some difficulty in sleeping? There are many things that can be done to help. It's so easy to present to your GP or clinician and say that you need to pop a pill for a lack of sleep. But actually, what I'm going to talk to you about today is simple things, practical things that you can do to help yourself wind down before bedtime, to avoid certain foods and drink, and also how to develop a routine. Now, in today's very busy lifestyles, the majority of people will often be working. Even if you don't have a form of employment, sometimes you will be doing your own activities, housework, for example, other things. And those routines sometimes can be quite monotonous. They can sometimes lead to something known as brain drain. And also, not to forget that overtired minds can also find difficulty switching off as well. So be very wary of the fact that sometimes an alteration in your usual pattern can bring about a disturbance in your sleep, which is really important. And we often see sleep problems manifest or present in childhood. So when we talk about insomnia or a lack of sleep, it basically does mean poor sleep, doesn't it? The fact that you're either difficult to switch off and fall asleep, or that you do fall asleep okay and you wake up after an hour or so. So having a lack of proper sleep as well. And again, the statistics are quite stark. So 1/3 of adults don't get as much sleep as they would like. So what are the effects of having poor sleep? Now, the effects of that is not being able to get to sleep as well. And you can end up waking up too early when you do have poor sleep. You wake up for long periods in the night and not feeling refreshed after a night's sleep. And that's one of the most commonest symptoms that patients present to me with, that they wake up, they think they've had a good sleep or they've had a good quality sleep, and they cannot feel fresh when they wake up the next day. So it's really important that we look at some of the reasons behind that as well. And if you suffer from poor sleep over a long period of time, what can happen is it can actually have a severe impact on your life. And there are lots of other clinical or physical symptoms that can become obvious as a result of a lack of sleep or poor quality sleep. So there's a difference. You can have a lack of sleep, which is very little sleep, or you can have poor sleep, which is poor quality of sleep. And these are two different things, but they can, over a longer period of time, cause the same symptoms. So it's very important that we have a discussion about it. So if you've just tuned in, it's me, Dr. Shabina, for the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Join in the conversation and comment on the video that has been uploaded on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube and Twitch. Or you can ring us and have a conversation on 01733 602 133. Text me on 07411 191062 as well. So what are the clinical symptoms of somebody that has a poor quality sleep? You can become tired and fatigued, and you can suffer from a lack of energy during the daytime as well. I mean, how many of you have not had a good sleep overnight and you struggle to do anything the next day simply because of the fact that you are fatigued, you're tired, you don't have that motivation in you as well. And you also suffer from a lack of concentration. So your focus isn't quite there. You can't concentrate on tasks at hand. Somebody might be saying something to you and it's difficult to relay back information or understand what the person in front of you has said, or digesting something such as reading a newspaper and not being able to retain the information in that article as well. You can get a loss of interest in your usual activities. So, for example, your usual activities might be a walk in the park, but if you haven't had a good quality sleep, you might not feel up to undertaking your daily walk in the park. So that's really important too, to have a look at your own routine and to see if you're losing interest in doing those activities that you usually do. And that links in, again, poor sleep might link in with other medical conditions as well, which I will speak about later on. It can give you depression and anxiety. And not to forget that having poor sleep can not only give you depression and anxiety, but the converse is also true. So you can also suffer from depression and anxiety and suffer from poor sleep as a result of depression and anxiety. So that's really important to keep in mind as well. And the other clinical presentation is that you develop the inability to do things as well with the same efficiency or as much as usual. For example, working, social activities, exercise. Errors might occur at work or whilst you're driving, which could have serious consequences. And it's funny because I've often seen that there are some new cars that can alert you to when they feel that you've been driving for a very long time and feel sleepy. So they'll obviously prompt you to have a coffee break. And those are there for a reason, because some of the most severe car accidents that take place are as a result of somebody who has had a lack of sleep and has fallen asleep at the wheel. So it's really important that we have a look at that too. And you can also have, and this is what I wanted to say last but not least, you can also have a very bad quality of life as a result of that. So I think, despite everything that we have spoken about this evening, I think it's really important that we talk a little bit about how this is manifest and how this can affect you in the long run. So think about these things. If you're suffering from depression, irritability, fatigue, always think about whether your sleep is the one that is affecting it. Is it because of a lack of sleep or a lack of quality sleep that you're now developing these problems? So think about that. A lot of people might come to me and say that I'm feeling tired, and the first thing I usually ask them is, how well are you sleeping? And be honest about it, because it often might be just a change in your lifestyle that can bring about some sort of improvement in your schedule or improvement in your sleep as well. Talking about a normal amount of sleep. So different people need different amounts of sleep. Children obviously need more sleep than adults. And the reason behind that is because children are growing at a far more rapid pace than adults are. So if you have enough sleep as a child, your growth rate is adequate, it increases. Those children that don't have a good quality sleep often don't grow as well. And it's very important to make sure that they have the right amount of sleep as well. For adults, and this is a question that often arises, how much sleep is enough sleep? So the minimum that children need is about 8 hours on average. But for adults, the minimum amount of sleep that is needed is 6 hours per night. And on average, most adults need between 6 and 9 hours of sleep so that they feel refreshed as well. And most people establish a pattern that is normal for them in their early adult life. However, as you become older, it is normal to sleep less. So for more people, it takes them less than 30 minutes to fall asleep. Now, if you knew my other half, who's my husband, and this is the bit that really irritates me, so I'm going to take the liberty to say this on air. He won't mind me saying it on air, by the way. But there are some people, like myself included, who take more than an hour to switch off. And my other half, who is my husband, Asad, he puts his head on the pillow and he is out like a light. And that often leaves me sometimes when I'm just lying there and I'm chatting, and I realize that I'm not receiving a response or nobody's talking to me. I then realize that he's actually fallen asleep. And I'm envious of that because I wish I was the same. But he tells me that that's the way he's been since childhood. He will put his head on the pillow and he is out like a light. And that is consistent. And I think it comes with having a good routine as well. So going to sleep early, going to sleep on time, and waking up early can maintain a good circadian rhythm, which is, in other words, in easy language, known as your biochemical clock. And that can also establish a good pattern. Once you've got a good pattern and a good routine, you will fall asleep a lot more easier. So if you become older, it's normal to sleep less. So with your age increasing, it is normal to sleep less. So don't worry if at the age of, say, 60, you're not sleeping for 12 hours. It just naturally comes with increasing age. It's a well-known fact. There's no point in speaking to any doctor about the fact that you can't sleep for 8 hours on the trot and you now sleep for 6 hours at the age of 60 to 70. So I won't worry too much about that. And everybody else is different. So everyone is different. What is important is that the amount of sleep that you get should be sufficient for you. And you usually feel refreshed and not sleepy during the daytime. Therefore, when we talk about insomnia, there's one thing called poor quality sleep. But when we talk about insomnia, the definition or the medical definition of insomnia is difficulty in getting to sleep, difficulty staying asleep, waking up early, or having non-restorative sleep despite adequate time and opportunity to sleep, which results in impaired daytime functioning such as poor concentration, mood disturbance, and daytime tiredness as well. Further ways to promote sleep in more difficult cases include relaxation techniques, which I will talk to you about, having regular exercise, and in some cases, having some certain psychological therapies can also help. And I'm going to have a conversation with you later on about sleeping tablets. And quite frankly, sleeping tablets really aren't the best way to help with sleep problems because they don't fix the cause of your insomnia. The other thing about tablets is that you can get addicted to them and they often stop working if you take them regularly. Now, if you've joined me here right now, this is Dr Shabina Asad Qayyum for the Body, Health and Mind Show on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Take the liberty to ask questions on the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter or Twitch live video. Or you can call me and have a conversation. Come on, pick up those phones and have a conversation with me on 01733 602 133. or you can text me on WhatsApp on 074 11191062. Get onto those phones and ask me questions. Share your stories or tips about how you can fall asleep or why you've suffered from a particular lack of sleep or poor quality sleep. Because remember, there can be reasons why you don't have quality sleep. So it's really important to try and establish why you're not sleeping the way you should. So let's talk a little bit about this as well. Now, in order for us to talk a little bit about sleep problems, you need to know what a normal sleep pattern looks like, first of all. So a normal sleep has three main parts to it. First of all, you have something known as your quiet sleep. Now, the quiet sleep is divided into stages 1 to 4, and each stage becomes more deep. Quiet sleep is sometimes called deep sleep. Then you have another phase, which is called the rapid eye movement sleep, or the REM sleep. And the REM sleep occurs when the brain is very active, but the body is limp. And apart from the eyes, which move rapidly, most dreaming occurs during the REM sleep. So that's the middle. So first you've got your quiet phase where you're falling into sleep. And that sleep takes 4 parts. So each part gets deeper. So part 1 is where you're just about falling into sleep. Part 2 is you've dozed off and you've drifted off. Part 3 is your respiratory rate becomes slower, you're breathing slower, your heart rate has slowed. And 4 is the deepest sleep that you can have in the quiet phase. Then after that comes your REM sleep, which is your rapid eye movement sleep, in which you see dreams, and apart from the rest of your body, your eyes are moving rapidly as well. And in between all of those phases, you'll have short periods of waking for 1 to 2 minutes. Now, every night, overall, when you analyze somebody who has a healthy sleep pattern, you will have about 4 to 5 periods of quiet sleep, alternating with 4 to 5 periods of REM sleep, which is your rapid eye movement sleep. In addition to that, you will have several short periods of waking for 1 to 2 minutes about every 2 hours or so. But they occur more frequently towards the end of the night sleep. And in a young adult who undergoes any type of sleep study, you will see that a typical adult who has a healthy sleep pattern will usually have rapid eye movement and quiet sleep phases around 3 to 4 times every night, depending upon the length of them sleeping. But that is based on an average of an adult who has 6 to 7 hours of sleep as well. And it's normal for adults not to remember the times that they wake if they last less than 2 minutes. So, example, if you're distracted during your waking time, for example, maybe your partner snores or you have traffic noise, then the wakeful times tend to last longer and you're more likely to remember them as well. And many people wake up actually periodically throughout the night and without them even knowing it. They're called mini arousals and can be worsened by poor sleeping position. You might think that you've actually had a full night's sleep, but you actually wake up tired. And when you wake up tired, that is a sign that you haven't slept properly the night before. So having a look at all of this gives us a little bit of an idea as to the normal sleep pattern, as to the phases in that sleep pattern, what insomnia is and a lack of sleep, how different people sleep differently. So the older that you get, the less sleep you need. And if you're a child, you need more sleep. Also, what the difference is between insomnia and poor sleep, which is completely different. And also, what causes them and what are the physical symptoms around it? So we've already spoken about the fact that physical symptoms associated with a poor sleep pattern can usually mean that you have tiredness and fatigue, you usually have a poor appetite, you have a lack of concentration and focus, you're not really interested in the things that you used to do as well. And you also have a poor quality of life. I mean, let's face it, some people who have a very poor sleep can have a very poor patience as well. And when they have poor patience, they tend to snap and become snappy and irritable as well. So irritability is one of those symptoms that I usually do talk about quite a bit when we talk about sleep. And it's one of the things that we should be considering. And like I said at the beginning of the show, it's so important to talk a little bit about how we look at things. And when we pick up the phone and speak to our GPs will often ask us about how much water we've had to drink, how much we're sleeping. And the other thing is, in order to get to sleep as well, also the dietary associations can affect our sleep pattern too. So have a look at what you're eating, how much you're eating, how early before bedtime you are eating, and also other factors like going to the bathroom, etc., to relieve yourself. These are some of the other factors that are really important too. So we're coming up now to the second part of the show where we're going to be having a break, and I will return by speaking to you a little bit about the causes of insomnia and the temporary problems and what to do to help yourself. So stay tuned, come back after the break and listen to me on the Body, Health and Mind Show.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Could you spare a few hours each month to provide support to people who are going through tough times? If so, Peterborough Samaritans are looking for volunteers who are empathetic and open-minded, and we'd love to hear from you. We run regular information sessions where you can find out more about what it means to volunteer for Samaritans. If you are at least 18 years of age and would like to know more, please email volunteer@peterboroughsamaritans.org.
Attention foodies! Discover a world of flavours at Pack Foods, the largest ethnic supermarket in Peterborough. Shop our vast selection of authentic ingredients from around the globe, including spices, marinated fish and meats, and exotic fruits at incredibly low prices. And the best part? We offer free parking. No more hunting for a spot. Come visit us today and explore the incredible range of flavours at Pack Foods, 232 Lincoln Road.
At Cake Inn, all our cakes and slices are freshly baked for that delicious taste. At Cake Inn, we bake 100% vegetarian and halal eggless fresh cream cakes. Delicious flavoured cakes for birthdays and weddings, ceremonies and all other occasions, with free customised messages, even balloons and candles too. Order for delivery or collection from Cake Inn, 489 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PE, and your cake could be ready within 2 hours. Find out more and order online at cakein.co.uk or call 01733 496 584. Satisfy your cravings at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant. Enjoy a tantalising variety of Chinese, Italian, Pakistani and comfort food favourites, from starters to desserts. Kids under 5 dine for free, so bring the whole family to our restaurant at 63 Sycamore Avenue. Open every day from 5pm to 10:30pm. Call us on 01733 313131 or book online to reserve your table. Ibrahimi-restaurant.co.uk. Every bite is a delight at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant.
Fancy the true taste of Middle Eastern Kurdish food? Asia Restaurant gives you the unique fusion of flavours from Turkey, Iraq, Syria and Iran. Eat in at 5 Fitzwilliam Street, Peterborough, PE1 2RU. Or order through Just Eat, Uber Eats or order through our website, asiarestaurant.co.uk. Call us on 01733 562 530. Asia Restaurant, the true taste of the Middle East. You could be driving, you might be cooking, you could even be working. But whatever you're doing, you're also listening to Salam Radio. And if you're in business, your potential new customers could be listening too. So talk to them and let them know what you have to offer. Advertising on Salam Radio is affordable and effective. And by doing so, you're also supporting this valuable and important voice within the community. Call 07866 319 679 or find Salam Radio online and across social media.
This is Salam Radio.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Body Health and Mind Show with Dr Shabina, your host on today's show here on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about, well, not a little bit, we spoke a whole half an hour about insomnia and how it affects people. And I was just saying to our studio manager, Asim, that I feel really tired today. And of all things, I'm talking about insomnia, which it made me feel tired. Isn't it really funny the way, is this a thing? I don't know. I've probably got to liaise with other health hosts of shows that when they talk about subjects, do they start feeling the symptoms? I'm literally exhausted. Sat here and I feel like I haven't had a whole night of sleep, even though that's not the case. It's just talking about the subject. But I enjoy being here with you. And the thing about, I think, presenting a show is to be unapologetically honest when we speak to our listeners, which is great because if it's so important to connect with all of you. That's what I really like doing and love doing. So if you haven't already tuned in, please tune in on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or Twitch. If you're in your cars, you're going home, I wish you a safe journey. If you're going back from the office and going home, I wish you all a safe journey. But listen to this show because you might pick up one or two very useful hints about the quality of sleep that you have. And I can tell you what I'm going to do when I go home. I'm going to go home, have my dinner, and I'm going to fall asleep. Oh no, but I have to follow my own rules, you see, because I did specifically say at the beginning of the show, just before the break, that we are supposed to eat at a certain time and not to eat too late as well. So I'll go home, have my dinner, wait for an hour or two, and then go to sleep. That's a better way to do it, isn't it? So if you're intrigued and you want to talk a little bit more about what your tips are on how to fall asleep, call me on 01733 6021 133. I want to hear from you. I want to hear on what your sleeping tips are. And no, don't talk to me about popping pills or taking tablets because that's something that I don't resort to very easily, of course, reserved in only very, very special circumstances and unique circumstances and those circumstances that warrant a clinical indication. Or you can text me on 07411 191062. Come on board, watch the show and tell me what your feelings are about this show as well. So I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about what causes insomnia. Sometimes, and this is the bit which gets very tricky, especially for doctors who are unable to diagnose this. Poor sleep or insomnia, a lack of sleep, can happen for no reason whatsoever. But there can be some psychological problems that contribute to insomnia. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I can remember up until this time when I was 10 years old, for some reason, I couldn't sleep at night. And this is when I was 10. I just couldn't fall asleep at night. And I remember as a child, I mean, it's had such an impact on me that I can remember lying there and not being able to fall asleep and then watching the sunrise as well. So that just goes to show. And it was such a stark episode in my life. There was no reason for it. There was no stress or anything at all in my life. And there was no change of circumstances or environment. I just couldn't fall asleep. So when people tell me that they suffer from insomnia, but there is no reason for it, I believe them because I've been through that lived experience myself. And that's part of, I think, being an effective clinician is listening to people and hearing them and validating how they feel and say, do you know what? I might not understand the position that you're in, but I can certainly hear you. So I think that's really important when we talk about lived experiences, to be able to resonate with people's lived experiences and validate them as well. Now, one of the reasons for having insomnia is that you might remember the normal times of being awake in the night, and you might feel that to wake in the night is not normal and worry about getting back off to sleep. You might watch your clock and check the time each time you wake up. What this can lead to is it can lead to an increased incidence of feeling irritable or anxious, and you're more likely to remember the times of the wakefulness. And you may then have an impression of having a bad night's sleep, even when the total amount of time you slept was normal. So these are some of the things that can cause insomnia as well. Another thing that can cause insomnia is that it's important to understand from the offset that poor sleep is often temporary. And there are many different reasons for having a poor quality of sleep. We're not talking about insomnia right now. We're talking about poor sleep. And this is because of stress. It could be a work or a family problem. It could be jet lag. It could be a change of routine. You could have had a new baby, a strange bed. Your mattress isn't quite right. There are some minor things that you wouldn't fathom would give you a poor sleep, but they actually do. Poor sleep in these situations usually do improve over time. Then you have other psychological issues that could give you poor sleep as well. You might find it difficult to switch off your anxieties about work, home, or personal problems. And also poor sleep is sometimes due to depression. Other symptoms of depression include a low mood, lethargy, poor concentration, being tearful about something, and just having persistent negative thoughts. And we all know how common depression is. 1 in 4 people will suffer from some point, some form of low mood at some point in their life. So it's really important that we think about these things. And when you cure the depression or the anxiety, you usually cure the poor sleep too. There are other physical conditions that can cause poor sleep. So sleep apnea, which can sometimes occur in people who snore, most commonly, and wait for it, most commonly in those people who are suffering from obesity or who are overweight. In this condition, the large airways narrow or collapse as you fall asleep. This not only causes snoring, the sound of which many of us are familiar with, but it also reduces the amount of oxygen that gets to the lungs and in turn the brain, which is why when you wake up, you feel heavy-headed, you feel washed out, you feel unrefreshed, and you feel a lot of fatigue, simply because you do not have the correct amount of oxygen flow to the brain as a result as well. And when you have obstructive sleep apnea, when you're snoring and when you don't have the right amount of air reaching your lungs, it sends signals to your brain to tell you to wake up. And a lot of people wake up gasping for air simply because their brain has been sent a message that this person isn't breathing properly. And what can happen after that is that this can occur on a regular basis, a few times each night, which then causes your daytime sluggishness, slowness, and fatigue. And most people who snore do not have sleep apnea, but they do sleep well. But sleep apnea is when it actually does affect you. And I think it's important to talk a teeny bit of obstructive sleep apnea. The reason being that a lot of people think that snoring is associated with obstructive sleep apnea as well. And it's different, you see. So obstructive sleep apnea is when your breathing actually stops for 10 seconds or more when you sleep. You wake up briefly after each episode of stopped breathing and you start breathing again. You don't usually remember the number of times you briefly wake up, but all you will remember is that you've had a tossing and turning night and you've had a disturbed night's sleep. And what that can cause is it can cause you to feel sleepy during the day as well. And a typical person with this condition is someone who is overweight, unfortunately is male, middle-aged, and snores very loudly. But I have seen cases where, as a result of somebody suffering from sleep apnea, it has an impact on the whole family. But there is treatment for it. There is treatment for sleep apnea. So it's important that we put that into consideration as well. Now, sleep apnea has different types, okay, in which during one night of sleep, you'll have mild sleep apnea, in which 5 to 14 episodes an hour occur. Then you will have moderate sleep apnea, between 15 to 30 episodes an hour occur of you waking up and gasping for breath. Severe sleep apnea is when you have over 30 episodes an hour, which basically means that after every 2 minutes you are waking up and gasping for breath, and that's not good as well. So it's ironic, though, isn't it, that you still won't remember. So sleep apnea is often patients won't remember that they have been waking up. But what that can cause is daytime sleepiness. So you might drive to work and feel sleepy at the steering wheel. You might be in a meeting and you're falling asleep in the meeting. You might find it difficult to hold a conversation with someone. You might doze off during the daytime whilst you're at work in front of a computer screen. You might not be able to stay awake whilst you're reading the newspaper or reading a book, for example. And often people with obstructive sleep apnea will fall asleep after a meal as well. So it could be an evening meal or whilst they're watching television as well. Often they won't finish the whole film if they have severe obstructive sleep apnea, simply because of the fact that they haven't slept well the night before. And it's very common. Now, it's quite common for any of us to have the odd symptom of holding our breath when we're asleep at some point in our lifetime as well. But people who get sleep apnea are those who I've said are typically overweight, those who drink alcohol in the evening, even though this is an Islamic radio show, but it is important to put out there what the causes are. If people have enlarged tonsils, you can get obstructive sleep apnea. If you take sedative medications, such as sleeping tablets or tranquilizers, that can also give you sleep apnea as well. If you sleep on your back rather than on your side, that can also give you sleep apnea too. Having a small or a receding lower jaw that is set further back than normal, that can cause airway obstruction, which can lead to sleep apnea as well. Smoking, and I always say smoking is the root cause of all the ills that we have within our body. Smoking causes sleep apnea. Having a family history of sleep apnea, will you believe it, can also cause sleep apnea as well. So it can occur at any age, including in children as well, especially if they are obese. But like I said, it commonly occurs in middle-aged men who are overweight or obese, although it can affect people who are not overweight as well. And it's actually thought that as many as 4 in 100 middle-aged men and 2 in 100 middle-aged women develop sleep apnea. Now, what are the symptoms? Daytime sleepiness. We've spoken about that already, about how an individual who has sleep apnea will have daytime sleepiness. They will then go on to have poor concentration and mental functioning during the day, which can lead to problems in work. And trust me, I have seen some patients who have suffered from obstructive sleep apnea and have had problems at work as well. Those that don't feel refreshed on waking, these people end up usually with having headaches in the morning when they wake up, suffer from depression and being irritable during the day. And only today, actually, I don't suffer from obstructive sleep apnea, but when I have a poor sleep, my husband will always say to me that you're really grumpy in the morning. And it's true. I don't put it down to not being a morning person. I actually put it down to the fact that I don't have a good sleep. So it's important. It's important to have a refreshed sleep so that you get up in the morning and you are absolutely fine and dandy with those around you, and that you go to work or go to whatever you're doing and the bees are buzzing and the birds are singing. That's the type of atmosphere that we all want when we go to work, and that's how you should all be feeling as well. But before I go on to treatments of insomnia, let's talk a bit about the complications of sleep apnea. So you can develop a high blood pressure if you have long-standing sleep apnea as well. You can suffer from a heart attack. You can suffer from a stroke. You can get problems with your blood sugar levels and regulation. You can be at increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes as well. And believe it or not, sleep apnea can also increase your risk of an irregular heart rhythm disorder known as atrial fibrillation. So do not take this lightly. It's not just simple snoring, but if you are waking up every so often gasping for breath and you are overweight, you could have obstructive sleep apnea. So it is important for you to get some treatment. Other than that, what else can cause a poor sleep? Stimulants, caffeine, nicotine from smoking can give you a poor sleep as well. And any prescription medication. Screen time. My goodness, this is the biggest vice because of the white light that you get from your phone devices. How many of us are guilty of looking at our phone whilst we're in bed before we go to sleep? I put my hand up. If you see me on the video, I'm putting my hand up. I need to stop that. Well, I do, sort of. I put my phone on airplane mode now because I don't want to be disturbed in the evening when I go home, because that is my personal time and my time to wind down so I can be productive during the day for all of you if you're my patients. So that's the reason why I put my airplane mode on. And obviously, just having unhealthy sleeping habits as well. So it's important that we look at how we can improve our sleep. So I'm going to now concentrate on how you can develop a better sleep. So first of all, I'd like to stress to you that you avoid caffeine, smoking, easier said than done, but you just need to Google smoking cessation in Peterborough and you will find many smoking cessation clinics. Alcohol, obviously, especially in the hours before bedtime. Big no, 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 no. Avoid heavy meals or strenuous exercise shortly before going to bed. Go to bed and get up at the same time every day. And regular daytime exercise helps you feel more relaxed and tired at bedtime. Now, sleep hygiene as well. Now, sleep hygiene, once you've reduced your caffeine, it's important not to have any other food or drinks that contain caffeine or other stimulants about 6 hours before bedtime. And some people find that cutting out caffeine completely through the day has helped them as well. Don't smoke within 6 hours of your bedtime. Do not have a heavy meal just before bedtime. Do not do any strenuous exercise within 4 hours of bedtime, but exercising earlier in the day is very helpful. Understand your body rhythms. What is your body trying to tell you? Try to get into a routine of wakefulness during the day and sleepiness at night. Your body is a remarkable structure where the body becomes used to rhythms or routines. So if you keep to a pattern, you're more likely to sleep well. Therefore, no matter how tired you are, do not sleep or nap during the day. It is best to go to bed only when sleepy tired in the late evening. Switch the light out as soon as you get into bed. Do not, and I repeat, do not leave the light on or put any lamps on. You can use them to wind down though. I often think sometimes soft light, warm light can help in sending your body and brain a message that this is your wind down time as well. And always get up at the same time each day, 7 days a week, however short the time of sleep. Use an alarm to help put yourself into perspective as well. And don't use your weekends to catch up on sleep, as this may upset the natural body rhythm that you've got used to in the week. So wake up every single day, 7 days a week at the same time. And your bedroom should be a quiet, relaxing place to sleep. It shouldn't be too hot, it shouldn't be too cold, and it shouldn't be too noisy. Earplugs and eye shades may be helpful if you're sleeping with a snoring or a partner that keeps on waking up during the night as well. Make sure the bedroom is dark with good curtains to stop early morning sunlight. As you know, nowadays when the days are a lot more longer, we get a lot more sunlight that starts very early in the morning. Don't use your bedroom for activities such as work, eating, or even television. A lot of people watch television in bed, and actually that can lead to you, because you're looking at this stimulating light, that can lead to your brain being kept awake for longer. So don't do that. Hide your alarm clock under your bed. Many people look at the clock, and this doesn't help you get off to sleep as well. Now, sometimes it's helpful going for a gentle walk, followed by a bath, reading a book, and having a warm drink without caffeine. Might be relaxing in the late evening, and I usually recommend a milky drink because that can help you go to sleep. Don't do anything mentally demanding within 90 minutes of going to bed, such as studying. Go to bed when you're sleepy tired, and not the other way around, when you're overtired. There are some people that think that playing soft music or a nasheed is helpful at bedtime. Try a player with a time switch that turns the music off after about 30 minutes. And if you can't go to sleep after half an hour, then get up. It's best not to just lie in bed worrying about getting to sleep. Get up and do something you find relaxing until you feel sleepy, and then go back to bed. And that's what I usually do, because sometimes I find it very difficult to go to sleep and I just refuse to lie there. I get up, make myself useful, do an activity, go and read something, or I don't go on any devices, so don't do that as well. Daytime exercise can help you feel more relaxed and tired at bedtime, even if it's for a small walk in the afternoon or the early evening. Moderate exercise means that you get warm and slightly out of breath, and you don't want that brisk walking or strenuous exercise just before you go to sleep. And then there are other therapies, like if all else fails, then if you've got severe, persistent poor sleep, you might be referred to a psychologist or a health professional for psychological treatment. So there are lots of different treatments for this, something known as stimulus control therapy that helps you reassociate the bed and the bedroom with sleep and to reestablish a consistent sleep or wake pattern. And then you also have something known as sleep restriction therapy. So the principle of this treatment really is that you limit the time that you spend in bed at night. And as things improve, the time in bed is lengthened. An example of the way this may be done is you might be asked to find out how much you're actually sleeping at night time. And you can do this by keeping a sleep diary. Then you are advised to restrict the amount of time that you spend in bed to the time that you actually sleep in night. For example, if you spend 8 hours in bed each night, but you sleep for only 6 hours, then your allowed time in bed would be 6 hours. So, for example, say if you go to bed by around 11 p.m. and go to sleep at 1 a.m. and get up at 7 a.m. to restrict your bedtime to 6 hours, go to bed at 1 a.m., still get up at 7 a.m. That's the premise behind it. So it's really important to understand this as well. So there's a lot that we can do to try and help as well. Now, lots of therapies are out there. There are lots of apps that are available on a smartphone that you can use as well. One that I know of is known as Breathe. They usually need a subscription. There's Calm, but there's one that I found that's excellent. It's called Smiling Mind. It's a free app. I would suggest to all of you to go onto your app stores and download it as well. Completely free. So what I would like to say to you is that most certainly go onto, and I think we've got a question. This is from Kiran Ayub. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Kiran. Thank you very much for coming onto the show. And she said that she's learned new info tonight, your explanation to clarify about sleep apnea. Also, thank you, Salam Radio and Shabina, for providing English subtitles. You're awesome, Shabina. Well, Kiran, I want to say to you that I find you awesome as well. Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts with us. And my goodness, we've come to the end of the show. See, I don't like it when that happens, when we're all warming up. It would have been wonderful to have remained on here. But sleep tablets are not the solution. I also think that there are some magnesium supplements which are excellent in making you drop off to sleep. And one of them is magnesium glycinate. Anything with lavender is good. So you can get some sleep spray with lavender oil. Do you know, I've got some lavender growing in my garden. Crush that and put it in a muslin cloth. Smell it and keep it near your bed. Beautiful to just drop off to sleep. Think natural. Think health, think well-being, and you will get there in the end. And you know what? I can't wait to see you all again on the next show, which is on Salam Radio, Body, Health and Mind. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your company and participation. Until next time,